Hello, welcome to Mix It Up with Black History and the Restoration. I'm Taylor Ricks, and this is where we normally mix up a recipe and mix up the restoration by learning about early Black members of the church. But let me tell you, it is summer in full swing here, and I don't think I have had 2 minutes where my kitchen hasn't had somebody else in it. And so it's been really tricky to have time to prepare a recipe in peace and quiet and tell you a story. So today I'm going to just make some banana bread, which we all know and love and make banana bread, so I'll share my recipe with you. So today I'm going to tell you the story of Nelson Richie. Nelson was born in the deep South in slavery, and he lived as a slave for many years until the Civil War, and that is when he fought on the side of freedom for all Black people of the Civil War. In the census records and war documents and all of those things, Nelson is listed as colored or Black, but as the years went on and as he got older, more and more records listed him as mulatto, which again we've talked about is not a term we continue to use, but it suggested that he had mixed descent. So he had a little bit lighter skin, maybe like mine, because he had one parent who was of African American descent and one who was Caucasian, and so he had kind of a mixed racial heritage. But for the most part, most people saw him as colored. So he fought in the Civil War for our freedom, and he and for liberating slavery and ending it. And he then met his wife, and they got married, and they worked really hard, and they ended up moving to Kansas, and they opened an incredibly successful business in Kansas and had some children. One of their sons' names was Alfie, and when he was about 8 years old, as they were running their hotel business, some missionaries from Utah came, and they taught them the gospel, and the family was baptized, and they were converted, and they made the trip across the plains to the Utah Valley, and they came and settled here. Now, what I forgot to mention is that Nelson married a white woman, and so their children had even lighter skin than he did. And so they actually were seen as white by many, many people. But when they got here to the Salt Lake Valley, Nelson asked if he could be sealed to his wife, and he explained his meeting as a very, very long meeting where a lot of questions were asked to him, and he asked a lot of questions to his priesthood leader to get this permission to be sealed to his family. But in the end, he was not given that permission because they saw him as a colored individual, and so he was unable to be sealed to his family in the Salt Lake Valley after making the long journey here. The interesting part, though, is that his children were able to be endowed and sealed in the temple. His son that I mentioned, he joined the Navy, and he served there for many years. When he was 29 years old, Nelson passed away, his father, and that is when he came home and rekindled his relationship with his family. They lived in the Sugar House Ward, and he farmed in West Jordan and had a really successful farm there and lived with his family happily, and he mostly was able to pass as white. And we've talked in the past that passing as white is when society sees you as white, and is when you make an effort to uphold being seen as white, whether that means having to kind of separate yourself from dark family members, or having to change maybe your customs or traditions to seem more white. So passing as white is kind of a more detailed thing, whereas you have to be seen by society as white, and then you also have to present yourself as somebody living that culture. And so that's kind of, a lot of people saw him that way, and they lived in the church as if they were able to, Nelson's children were able to receive the priesthood and all of those things because of their mixed racial heritage. And they lived here for a long time and lived the gospel and passed it on to their family. And so Nelson's sacrifice blessed his family and children, but also blessed so many of us as he served as a war veteran and then as his son served in the Navy. And so I am just so grateful for Nelson and his sacrifice to help build the kingdom, and he was an important role and pioneer that came and settled the Utah Valley, so he also helped establish the church and the gospel here as well. So Nelson has a very rich history, and he did so much for all of us and for the church. And so that is the short and sweet story of Nelson. I know that we all have super busy summers, so I think some of our summer stories might be a little bit shorter, but I hope that is okay. I just wanted to share that story with you and hope you have a great week. Thank you again for coming to Mix It Up, Black History and the Restoration. I am Taylor Ricks, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye.